Sweet, so now that you have that traced down onto your paper, let's go ahead and go through and we're going to add our other lines in our shark to bring it together. So let's go ahead and first just add this line here to make his fin look like it's closer to us and over the back fin. So we'll just draw a line right up there. When you're doing this, draw your lines pretty light at first, just in case you mess up, so it's not super dark and you don't mess it up. Now let's go ahead and take this line and pull it up here, just like that. Then we'll do the same thing with this smaller one. Just like that. Right, so we've added those lines. Now let's go ahead and add an eye. Once again, do this very lightly in case you need to change where it goes if it looks out of place. So I think that spot's a pretty good spot. We'll go ahead and lightly put that there. So we have one eye in, and now let's go ahead and add a mouth. Now your mouth doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but I'm just going to go ahead and give him a little kind of friendly mouth right there. So those are just the extra lines to bring our layout together a little bit more. So go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and get a little creative with the mouth there, but put your eye in a nice spot that looks like it lines up with the other side. And once you've done that, go ahead and head over to the next lecture. In this lecture, we're just going to focus on the eye of our shark. Now, before we go ahead and start coloring it, I'm just going to go ahead and show you our color scheme. So for our eye, you're going to need your black and white colored pencil. So go ahead and grab those. Then you're going to need a yellow colored pencil. Then, once you get your yellow, we're going to go with this green, almost a minty looking green. If you're using Prismacolors, this is the color I am using. That'll focus. There we go. And also, we might at the end throw in a little bit of blue, some true blue, but I don't know yet. We'll get to the end and we'll see if we want to throw that in. So to start, let's go ahead and just take our black colored pencil and make our eye a little more defined and outlined. So we'll go ahead and take our black and just outline your eye so we know our boundaries and where we're working. Just like that. So now before we go any further, we need to decide where the light source is coming from. Well, let's go ahead and decide that the light source is going to be coming up from this direction. So before we add any color, we want to go ahead and add our reflections on our eyes. So go ahead and take your white colored pencil and just add a nice big white dot. Oops, my pencil just broke. Alright, and there we go. Now, once we've done that, we're going to take our black colored pencil and add his pupil. Now we don't want to go over the white with it, so that's why we put the white first. So we're going to draw a circle in the middle of the eye. We're going to avoid that white. So once you do that, then take your black and draw where the white comes in. Just like that. Then once you've done that, go ahead and color it in black. Alright, and there you go. Our eye is already coming along pretty well. So now let's take our black again and just add a few little streaks in here where the color is going to be. Just to add some contrast in the colors and make some dark and light areas. So just very lightly draw in some black. Perfect. Once you've done that, let's go ahead and take our green and we're going to go over these black lines and around them and just add some. Just go ahead and go through here and make some irregular, make some really thick green blotches and then some really thin ones. Just go in here and make your green markings and make sure to avoid the white. You don't want to get any color on that at all. In fact, let's take our green and outline the white right there so we don't go inside of it. And now let's take our green and go all the way along the edges. Perfect. Now, this is where it's going to make the color pop a lot, is by taking our yellow and we're going to go in and fill in the empty spaces. And we can go over the green with this, add additional coloration. Alright, and there you go. Now, my eye has a lot of crumbs from colored pencil, so when that happens to you, go ahead and blow it off. Don't wipe it off with your hand because you might smear colored pencil streaks across your drawing. So go ahead and blow that off. Now, how can we take this to the next level? Well, let's take our blue now, and we're going to add a little tiny bit of blue to make the colors come together even a little bit more. So let's take our blue and lightly go around the pupil. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing out here, very lightly. You don't want to press too dark. All the way around. And then let's pull that blue a little few streaks up towards the pupil. Just like that. Perfect. Now let's take our black once more and we're going to outline that eye a little bit darker this time to bring it all together. Alright, and there you go. We have our colors down for our eye. We got the eye out of the way first just because we don't want to go back through and color while this is all filled in with color, smearing them together. So we went ahead and did our eye first. Now let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the body. Okay, so in this lecture, what we're going to be doing is adding our first layer onto our shark, which is going to be our shadows. But before we can start that, there's a few things we need to do first. First, I'm going to go ahead and show you our color scheme for this shark. Now, we may not be using all of these colors for our shark. This is just our general color scheme and all the colors I pulled aside for it. So to start, we have Canary Yellow. If you're using Prismacolors, these are the Prismacolor names. If you're not using Prismacolors, go ahead and try to find colors that are similar as you can. So this is just a ordinary yellow. Then we have Pink. Then we have Mulberry for the Prismacolors, or a kind of neutral pink, pinkish purple there. Then we have Orange, Violet Blue, and Peach. So once again, we may not use all of these colors for our shark. This is just the general color scheme. So for now, let's go ahead and just set these to the side because I forgot to do something in our later lecture, part of our layout. Let's go ahead and take our black colored pencil and we're going to add some lines for his gills, which I forgot to do. So we're just going to go ahead and add 3 lines going along his body there. Now remember, when you do your shark, you can go ahead and add some things to him to make him a little bit more personalized or give him some more character. Like if you'd like, you can put a fish hook going through his fin, or maybe a hat on top of his head, or a bone going through his nose, anything you want. You can also give him tattoos or just get creative with it. So we have this, we added our gills, so now let's go ahead and add our first layer, which is going to be our shadows. So for our shadows, we're going to go with this blue here. Now I know it's not black because we want this to look nice and warm and inviting and cartoon looking, so we want our shadows to look cool and dark, so we're going to go with this violet blue. So let's go ahead and just start adding our shadows. So we already decided that our light source is going to be coming from up here, so first let's go ahead and add a faint shadow along here on his back fin. Now remember not to go super dark at first in case you mess up. Alright, now we're going to bring the shadow to about there and have it fade into nothing. So now let's do another layer and make it a little bit darker up towards the top. Alright, and another layer. And let's do a nice hard line right along there. There we go. And then blend that in. Do the same thing over here, and then fade it out the further down we get. Alright, and there we go. Now let's go ahead and move over here. We're going to add some shadows along his belly. So let's go ahead and start drawing these in. So we're starting out very light, and then we'll come back through and add more layers. We're going to pull this shadow all the way up along his tail and down. Just like that. Now let's make these lines a little bit darker with the blue. And our next layer is applied now. We're going to make this little back fin darker than the front one since it's in the back. Just like that. Now we'll continue with our dark line. Continue pulling it along his tail. So pretty much we want our shadows darkest to the edge and then fading out toward the more we get towards the center of his body. Alright, so we have his belly all drawn in with shadows. Now we're going to take our blue and just lightly put a little bit along his chin. Just like that. Now let's come along to his eye and put a little bit under his eye. We don't want to put too much because it will make him look like he's stressed out or tired. It's just a little bit under there. And then let's go along the back of his gills and add some shadows in there. Just like that. And then let's add a little bit along his back fin and the back of his tail there. Just very faintly, we don't want these ones too intense. Let's put a little bit more under his mouth right there. So right now he may be looking a little bit funky because we just have our shadows in. But once we start adding more color and putting them more together, he's going to look a lot more vibrant and colorful. So that's all for the shadows in this lecture. Go to the next lecture to then add in our highlights, and then we can get to actually putting the color in his body and bringing it all together. Alright, so we got our first layer down, which is our shadows. Now, if you're looking at my picture and you're thinking it looks a little bit different from the last lecture, that's because along the way somehow this video got deleted or lost when I went to upload it. So if it looks a little bit different, don't worry, on the next lecture we'll be back on track with the original ones. I just had to go through and make this one really quick and roughly add our shadows so I could show you how to add the highlights. So to add the highlights, we're going to take our yellow colored pencil that we had in our color scheme. We're going to start by adding some highlights right here on his nose, and we're going to move back along his body. So to start, let's just go ahead and lightly start adding a layer of yellow starting from his nose, on the back of his head, all the way up his fin. Okay, once you've done that, let's go ahead and bring it down his nose, along the top of his mouth a little bit. So we've decided that our light source is coming from up here. That's why we have our shadows along the underside of him, and along the back of his fins, and the highlights are going to be along right here in his tail and such, which is where the light is going to be hitting. So we have that. Now let's bring this down around his eye a little bit and along his fins on the opposite side of the shadows. Make sure you fade those out so they're not too strong. Alright, now let's move down here to his lower fin, and we're going to put some right along this edge of his fin. And then we're going to bring it up on this side. It's nice and light. And then we'll bring it up against the back as well a little bit. And now let's just put a very light layer here in the middle. Just like that. Perfect. Now we just need to add some along the back right here. Just a little bit of highlight right there. And then some here on his tail. Now finally, let's add a little bit of highlight going across his back right here to make it look like he has, you know, some arch and some curvature coming out around right here. We're just going to add this going across right there. And there you go, that is all our highlights. So once again, if it looks a little different, don't worry, we're going to move on to the next. The highlights are exactly the same, and the shadows, so we're going to go on to the next lecture, where we're going to add our secondary highlights and shadows, and we'll be back on track with the original shark. Alright, so to continue our layers, what we're going to do is now add a second tone to our highlights and shadows. And what I mean by that is for our shadows we have down here, we're going to take our mulberry color right here. We're going to add a second layer of shadows to help blend this shadow into the actual color that's going to be in the shark. So this color is going to be the second shadow layer to our shadows right here, and then we're going to use this peach here for our yellows to blend it in to our color when we put that in. So first, let's go ahead and just take our purplish pink right here. We're going to start with the shadows first. So what we're going to do is just take this and add a layer over our shadows we already have and blend it out just like we did with our first layer of shadows. And what this does is help add some more coloration and bring our shadows out more so they don't look super harsh and like tense on the colors. This is going to really help it blend it and bring a lot more color and make it look more smooth. So let's just bring, since this back fin is behind his other fin, we're going to just bring this all the way to the end. And remember, you don't want to do this so hard that no paper shows through. You want some paper to be showing through to give room for our actual color when we go in and color him. We still haven't put his actual body color in. These are just the highlights and shadows. Then let's go up here. Let's make this a little bit lighter. We don't want too much since this isn't a super dark shadow. There we go, and let's add a little bit darker, a little bit more vibrant right under his mouth. There we go. Alright, now let's move down here on his belly. Just put a nice layer of this pink along our bowl. As you can see, this is already bringing a ton of more life and color to our shark, making the colors look a lot more saturated and a lot more interesting. further up above the blue. Make sure you fade it really good so we don't have any harsh lines. We want it to blend right into our colors. As you can see, this method of colored pencil drawing is very fun to use, but it does take a little bit more time because you're adding so many layers. This is our third layer we've put on, and we're not even 50% way through. Maybe we are 50. And then we're going to add this fourth layer, and then we still have a few more layers. But at the end, it definitely pays off. It makes it look very colorful and vibrant, and it just looks amazing. Yeah, like I said, a lot of people like to use this method. Personally, me, I like to use this method for making cartoon-looking characters or fun pictures that I want to look really warm and inviting. And I like using the other method for maybe things that look more realistic. But you can use both methods mixed into one to make realistic or cartoon-looking drawings. Whatever you prefer. Alright, there we go. That's looking really good. We have that all blended in along his belly. Now let's add a little bit up here. Alright, there we go. Now we'll add a little tiny bit under his eye right down here. And then we'll add some along his gills as well. His gills look kind of messy right now because it's just a bunch of highlights and shadows mixed in there, but when we go in and add color and then make our gill lines a lot more defined with our black colored pencil, it's going to come together and look a lot nicer. Alright, so let's add some up here on the back of his fin now, and his little fin. Let's pull this secondary shadow along his back a little bit to make it give the idea that his back is curved and that this isn't just a straight line. So it comes down like this and then out. So you can see the gills making that curve to give the idea that his body is curved like that. Alright, now let's just add a little bit down here. Alright, and there you go. That is our secondary layer of shadows. Now let's go ahead and take our peach colored pencil and do the same thing for our highlights. So let's go ahead and start down here again, and we'll just go over a yellow and pull this up into our purple. There we go. here. Now up along here, we're not going to put our peach color over our yellow because I'm thinking about adding a little bit of white in here to make it even brighter. So we're just going to go and stay below this. You can blend into it a little bit, just not a ton. But we can add some down here on the upper part of his mouth and along the top of his mouth as well. Add some on top of his eye. All along here. Let's put some on his gills. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but right in here I mixed my blue with my yellow a little too much and got some green in there, but that's okay. Just keep on going. Here we go. This is looking really nice now. Can't wait to finally put our color in and have it all come together. Alright, there we go. Now let's come up here, add some. Add some right along the side here. Right and along the back. There we go. And then back of his tail, or the top of his tail. Now down here, let's just cover the only places we don't want to go over the yellow with our peach is right along here. So you can go over it right here and all back here. And actually up here, do not cover it because we're going to put a little bit of white in there. Just to make it a little bit more vibrant. Alright, now let's go ahead and finally do his fin. Or his bottom fin. We can go over all the yellow, but don't push too hard because we don't want to color that up. Pushing just light enough makes a really nice tone here, makes some great looking color. Alright, and there you go. There is our 2 layers, our secondary shadows and highlights. Now to finish this lecture off, let's go ahead and take our white colored pencil and add that last final look to our highlights. So just take your white and very lightly just add a nice layer of white along here. Actually, let's just take a little bit and put it along here as well. Even though we did go over with the peach, it's still fine. Alright. There we go, and then a little bit up on top of his tail. Alright, and there you have it. That is our 3rd layer, or 2 layers in one lecture. of our shark. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next lecture where we can actually color him in pink. His base color, if you were to put no light on him or highlights or shadows, he would just be straight up pink. So we're going to go into our next lecture and color him in pink, and then once we've done that, we can look at it and tell what needs to be changed, if we need more highlights and shadows, and we can do that. Alright, so our shark is almost there. We just have to put in our base color to bring it all together. So like I said in the last lecture, our base color is going to be our pink colored pencil. I'm using the Prismacolor, so if you're not using Prismacolor, just go ahead and try to find a pink colored pencil that matches this pink. So what we're going to do is just fill in the empty spots with our pink. But we have to remember, like in the previous lectures, we can't bring a darker color over into a lighter color. We have to bring the lighter color into the darker color. So we're going to take our pink and we can go over our layers of shadow in here, but we cannot take our pink and go over our layers of highlights. It's going to mess the whole thing up. So we have to stop our pink right along this line of our highlights and shadows, and then we'll go back in and bring our highlights down into our pink. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's start with this back fin and just take our pink and go over the whole entire thing. Remember, we're not pressing super hard. We want still a little bit of paper to show through to blend it really well with all of these colors. Alright, now let's move up to our head and we're just going to work this way. So take our pink, just add it all in here. Remember not to go too far up into the highlights. After we're done, we're going to take our highlights and pull them into our pink. But we can go over this shadow right in here. Let's pull our pink a little bit in here to make these highlights not so intense, just very lightly. There we go. Now in very few places we will go over our highlights with the pink, just because we don't want the highlights in that area to be so intense. We want them to look a little bit more subtle. Like in this area, we're just going to take our pink and just go straight over all of that. And down here, we'll go over straight all over that. We did a little bit down here because we didn't want those highlights as intense, but when we go back through with our highlights, we'll go back over this a little bit to bring it back to life a little bit more. So let's go ahead and just go over all of our gills right here. And let's do his chin right down here. Just going over all of our shadows. Also, you guys, if you want, you can put a piece of paper down on the half of the shark you're not drawing on so you don't smear it with your hand. I'm not going to, just so you guys, it doesn't look confusing to you guys while you're watching me. But if you want to, feel free to go ahead and do that. Alright, now let's move down here to his bottom fin. And you can, remember, go a little bit up into your highlights, and it's not that bad with this color because pink isn't much darker than this peach color. So we can go a little bit up into there. We just really don't want to get into that bright yellow. Alright, there we go. Now we just have this area. We'll go over all of our shadows down here. Very nice. Then we'll come up into this shadow and just get this. And his tail. Alright, and there you go. So now let's take our two highlight colors and let's see what areas need to be blended more with our highlights. Oh, we actually forgot a little spot right here up on this fin. Let's just take our pink real quick and color this in. Alright, there we go. So we have all our pink colored in. Now I'm thinking right around here we want to take our yellow and lightly bring it down into our pink to bring it together a little bit more, just like that. See, it really pulls that peach color out and makes it a lot more vibrant. Alright, there we go. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing down here. And so we're pulling our yellow into our pink. Let's pull our yellow a little bit up to here. Alright, and then along here, let's pull our yellow down in front of our gills. Pulling our yellow down in here. So as you can see, when you pull that yellow over our peach color, it really enhances it a lot more and makes it look really nice. And up along here. And finally, let's go along his tail. Alright, and there you go. We have added all of our color into our shark. He looks super beautiful and vibrant. We have our nice color scheme and then a little bit of green to make it pop and make it look interesting. So once you've done this and colored in your shark, if you need to, go back and look at some spots, how I did them if you're a little bit confused. And then move on to the next lecture where we'll add our final little details and any cleanups we need to do, and I'll show you how to do that. And then you will have a complete little cartoon shark character. Now that we've added our final layer, we're going to go ahead and go through and add any final touch-ups that our shark needs. Now your shark may need some different final touch-ups, so in this lecture it's going to be up to you to determine what you think you need. So right now, just looking at mine, I think I need to go through my shark and add a light layer over everything, because this yellow pencil is bringing a lot of color out of all the other colors. So I'm going to go in now and lightly add a yellow layer. If you think yours needs the same, go ahead and do that now. This yellow is just going to bring out the vibrance of the other colors and make them pop a lot more. Like with this pink. Just like that. And that's it, not too much. Now looking at it, I think along here, this bottom shadow, I think it needs to be blended into this pink a little bit more. So I'm going to take our secondary shadow tone, which is this purplish pink. I'm just going to add a little bit right along here where they blend into each other. Alright, now lastly, I'm just going to take my white colored pencil and I'm going to go over these really intense highlights and go over them one last time to give them a final pop. And if you have any other places on your shark that you think could use these highlights, go ahead and add them. Alright, congratulations on making it this far. Your shark is completely done. But I'm going to go through and do something I like to do with some of my drawings, especially cartoon looking ones. I'm going to go through and outline the edges of these graphite lines with a black colored pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then show you, and you can decide whether you want to do that or not. Alright, so I'm back and I went and added the black colored pencil to all of my lines. It gives it a nice sharp clean look that I really like. So if you like how this looks, you can go ahead and do that to your shark, or you can leave it how it is. It's really just a personal preference. So now that your shark is done, you can go ahead and go crazy with the background, add whatever you like. You know, maybe you want to add some bubbles coming up from him, or add a background. So go ahead and do what you like. I can't wait to see your shark in the Q&A section or on Facebook, and I'm super excited to see what you've done with this.